My husband staged his own kidnapping to raise money for his lover's treatment. I ran everywhere trying to collect the ransom, even taking out loans. By the time I finally scraped enough together, he had already abandoned me and our daughter and vanished with all the money. 2 years later, my daughter fell ill and had to be hospitalized. I was penniless and hounded by debt collectors. Because I couldn't afford treatment in time, she missed her best chance of recovery and died. In despair, I threw myself off a building. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the very day my husband was kidnapped. When the kidnappers called, threatening me, I answered in a calm voice. Go ahead. Kill him. My scream tore through the phone. Adam Brooks, my husband, shouting desperately for help. Please, honey, don't let me die, help me, please. I hung up. Then I called the police. I told them my husband had been kidnapped and the kidnappers were demanding ransom. The police launched an investigation, and I cooperated fully. Thanks to my memories from my past life, I led them to the exact spot where the exchange had taken place. We traced the clues to an abandoned factory. When the police stormed in, they found Adam Brooks tied to a chair while his captors were filming a video of him being beaten, footage they planned to send. They were caught red-handed. Those kidnappers turned out to be his friends, several of whom I even recognized. As they were dragged away, Adam looked at me, his mouth opening and closing soundlessly. He wanted to explain, but didn't dare, otherwise, he'd be going to jail with them. When we got home, I put on my best worried wife act, tending to his wounds. As I wiped the blood from his forehead, the color smeared away. It was paint. I pretended not to notice and gently placed a bandage over it. What kind of friends do you have? I asked softly. You're always so close, and yet they kidnapped you. If I hadn't called the police in time, who knows what might have happened. He was dazed, but when he heard the word police, he suddenly grabbed my wrist, eyes wide. Why did you call the police? To save you, of course, I replied lightly, pulling my hand back as I packed up the first aid kit. He stopped me again. Did you ever think, what if they really killed me? Honestly, if they had, that would have been perfect. But I only smiled faintly. I didn't think that far ahead. I just wanted to save you. Anyway, the result turned out fine, didn't it? Whether it was fine for him only he knew. After that, Adam Brooks was never the same. He became withdrawn, often absent, clearly trying to find a way to get his friends out. But with charges like kidnapping, blackmail, and extortion, even he couldn't pull them free. While he was gone, I quietly transferred all our assets into my name. Then I took our daughter for a full medical checkup. Her condition was caught early, and with timely treatment, the doctor said she had a chance to fully recover. I poured all my attention into her care, splitting my time between work and the hospital. Her attending physician, Dr. Tyler Bennett, was a young department head, tall, slender, fair-skinned and soft-spoken. My daughter adored him, saying he cared about her more than her father did. And she was right. Adam Brooks hadn't shown up once since she'd been admitted. He hadn't always been like this. We'd been together for 6 years, from college to career to marriage, our love unshaken by any real hardship. But after I got pregnant, everything changed. He became distant, forgetful. Even our anniversary slipped his mind. I told myself that was marriage, the passion fades, life smooths the edges off love. I never imagined he'd be keeping another woman. That afternoon, while I was home making soup for our daughter, the door opened. Adam appeared, looking pale and haggard, shadows deep beneath his eyes. He looked like he'd been through hell. I'd called him a few times earlier. Each time, he ignored me, sending only a curt reply, on a business trip. Don't bother me. I stopped trying after that. Now he sat on the couch in silence while I busied myself in the kitchen. When the soup was ready and I was about to leave, he suddenly called out. Honey, that kidnapping thing, it wasn't real. You saw it yourself. Those were my buddies. It was just a joke that went too far. Please, come with me to the station and explain. Maybe the police will grant them leniency. His voice was hoarse, his eyes uneasy. I paused, then slowly turned to him. You were tricked, Adam. They weren't joking. I threatened to kill you if I didn't pay. Who plays that kind of prank? I swear it really was fake, he insisted, reaching for my hand. I stepped away. And how would you know that for sure? Unless you were in on it too. He froze, the truth written all over his face. I already gave the police the call recordings, I said quietly. The evidence is solid. He said nothing after that. I picked up the soup and left. That night when I came back to the hospital to get something, I passed by a room and heard his voice. Curiosity stopped me. Through the half-open door, I saw him holding another woman in his arms. Don't worry, he murmured. I'll find a way. I'll make sure you get the treatment. Are you sure you can get the money in time? She asked weakly. I will. Just focus on getting better. Leave everything else to me. So this was the woman he risked everything for. The fake kidnapping, the stolen money, it was all to save her. I took out my phone and recorded the scene. A few days later, Adam came to me again. He said his mother was ill and needed an expensive operation. Then, without hesitation, he asked me to transfer him the money. I used to love him deeply, obeying him in almost everything, always trying to be a good wife and a dutiful daughter-in-law. Anything that concerned him, I barely questioned, I would always find a way to help. But this time, I didn't agree immediately. Instead, I asked, when did this happen? Why didn't you tell me earlier? What exactly is her illness? Is she in the hospital now or somewhere else? For the sake of his lover, he could casually spin such a flimsy lie, one that could be easily exposed. Was he planning, just like in my past life, to take the money and disappear? I only just found out myself. She's still in the hospital. You need to give me the money, or we'll miss the best treatment window, he said softly, a mix of coaxing and deception. I was easily persuaded if he lowered his guard and softened his tone, I would have agreed to anything. But it was precisely because I was easy to coax that I had been deceived over and over. I frowned. Then we need to go back home immediately. No need. You have to take care of the child. I can go by myself. Fine. Wait, he'll get ready. Seeing me agree, he let out a relieved breath and grabbed my shoulders, smiling. Wife, you're so good to me. It's only natural. We're married, I replied. I've neglected you all these years, but I'll make it up to you tenfold from now on, he said, lost in the joy of thinking he would get the money. While he was still basking in that excitement, I turned and called my mother-in-law. I told her that her son had cursed her to die. Outraged, she called Adam Brooks that very night and scolded him mercilessly. Adam Brooks, furious, came to find me. How could you talk to my mother like that? She hates this kind of thing, he snapped. So she's not actually sick. You're lying to me, I said calmly, staring him down and exposing his deception. He froze, then slumped onto the sofa with a sigh. Yes, I lied to you. I needed the money. My friends went to jail because of you, and I had to get them out. Just for your friends? I raised an eyebrow. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I might have believed him. When I questioned him, he reacted like I had stepped on his tail, hopping in frustration. Otherwise what? Olivia Clark, we've been together for so many years, and you know I rarely ask anyone for help. This time, I really had no choice. Adam Brooks, it's better to just say it plainly than to twist and spin all these excuses for a man, I said. I didn't want to waste words. I said directly, let's get a divorce. What did you say? He stared at me in disbelief. Are you out of your mind again? Even when our relationship had hit rock bottom before, I had never mentioned divorce. He knew I couldn't live without him, which was why he had been so reckless. But love eventually runs out. He stood up, ice cold and hard. Just because I asked you for some money, you want a divorce? This isn't just about money, I said firmly. Those funds were the only inheritance my parents had left me. Why should I give them to him to treat his lover while my own daughter still needed care? Then what is it? Because my friends played a joke and kidnapped me? Because you broke your promise? Because you're not worth my love or my devotion anymore? Is that clear? I spoke each word deliberately, every syllable firm. Not just because of the absurd lies he concocted for money, but because he had changed, he had cheated. No one who betrays their partner deserves forgiveness. He couldn't take it anymore. He shoved me aside. I stumbled back and collapsed onto the sofa. His eyes red, teeth gritted, he hissed. Fine. Good. Don't regret this. Then he turned and slammed a door behind him. Even though I already knew his true nature, tears still streamed down my face uncontrollably. This was the man I had loved for over a decade, devoted when he loved me, deceitful without a shred of remorse when he didn't. He thought I was just sulking and didn't take me seriously. A few days later, I arranged to meet him to finalize the divorce. He didn't care, convinced that once the cooling off period ended, I'd crawl back to him. During the cooling off period, I moved into the hospital to stay with my daughter. Her surgery was coming up soon. She hadn't said much, but I could see her fear. Fortunately, Dr. Tyler Bennett was there to care for her. He would occasionally share little stories about the operating room, helping to ease her anxiety. Uncle Tyler, are you going to do my surgery? Chloe Hall asked softly. She trusted him more than anyone else. I felt the same. In the days we'd been at the hospital, I had looked into Drive. Bennett's reputation, he was the best, but his schedule was packed with surgeries. He might not even be available. I didn't want to trouble him, so I told Chloe. It's okay. Whoever performs your surgery is fine. Mom will be right outside the operating room the whole time. Chloe nodded obediently, no longer pestering him. To my surprise, Dr. Bennett said, I'll clear my schedule that day. You're my patient, and I should do this surgery myself. He ruffled Chloe's hair and smiled gently. Really? Chloe's eyes lit up. I worriedly asked, is that okay? Would it be too much trouble? He shook his head. Not at all. It's no trouble. Later, when Chloe had fallen asleep, Dr. Bennett called me outside the room and quietly asked. There's something I probably shouldn't ask, but Chloe's condition is serious and she needs someone by her side constantly. Where is her father? I haven't seen him since you were admitted. I smiled bitterly. It's always been just me taking care of her. He never comes. Tyler Bennett paused for a moment, adjusted his glasses, and said nothing, simply patting my shoulder in a reassuring gesture. After that, the nurses paid extra attention to Chloe Hall, and Tyler Bennett began visiting even more frequently. During our stay at the hospital, I overheard quite a bit of gossip. The nurses said Tyler Bennett had been married, but unfortunately, his wife had cheated on him. She had taken the child and left, then for some unknown reason returned, hoping to reconcile, but he refused. Some even whispered that the child wasn't Tyler Bennett's at all, which was why he could never forgive her. I hadn't expected someone as outstanding as Tyler Bennett to be abandoned like that. A few days before my daughter's surgery, I received news that Adam Brooks had sold the house we were living in. The information came from my mother-in-law. I confronted Adam immediately, and he told me simply. I needed the money. Someone wanted to buy it, so I sold it. Nothing more. No explanations, no apologies. I said, fine. Take that money and leave. Don't ever come back. He sneered. No divorce. I smiled coldly. Of course there's a divorce. His face turned impassive. Move your things tonight. The buyers will come to inspect soon. I started searching online for a new place right away. We didn't have much, but I wasn't about to just abandon our belongings. Time was tight though, and suitable apartments were hard to find. When Tyler Bennett came to inspect the apartment, he seemed to notice my predicament. After the inspection, he approached me in the hospital. Do you need help? He asked. I need to rent a place. Is it urgent? The sooner, the better. I didn't expect much from him. He was a doctor, not a realtor. How could he help me find a home? To my surprise, he said, I have a place near Linjiang. It's not far from here. Would that work? It was convenient for both the hospital and my daughter's care. I looked up at him, wanting to nod, but didn't want to trouble him. Seeing my hesitation, he smiled. Do you want it? We can negotiate the rent. I had the movers come that night. Adam Brooks stood at the doorway, cold and indifferent, watching. As I sorted Chloe Hall's things, he suddenly asked, "Where's Chloe Hall?" Only now did he seem to remember he had a daughter. "At the hospital," I said casually. "What's wrong with her?" "Well, what else? She's sick, of course." He didn't ask again and I didn't say more. I continued packing in silence. When the last item was finally moved, he asked, "You're fast. Did you already find a place?" I snorted. "Lucky. I just happened to have a place ready, otherwise, I wouldn't have had anywhere to move these things." "You could have asked me to help," he said unexpectedly. I found it almost comical. "Would asking you have done any good?" I replied. "If it could, we wouldn't be in this mess today." Soon, the day of Chloe Hall's surgery arrived. Even though I had steeled myself, tears still fell as I watched her walk into the operating room alone. Then a gentle hand rested on my shoulder. "Don't worry. I'll make sure everything goes well," a calm voice said. I turned to see Tyler Bennett watching me with a gentle gaze. In that moment, a flood of emotion surged in inexplicable aid, but I said nothing, only nodded through my sobs. As the operating room doors closed, my heart finally settled. Time ticked by and about 30 minutes later, my phone vibrated. It was Adam Brooks calling. I wasn't in the mood to answer, so I hung up. He called again, and I hung up again. This repeated more than 10 times. Finally, he sent a text, "Are you still going through with the divorce? Regret it, huh?" I replied, "I've been busy these past 2 days. Let's talk later." He misunderstood, thinking I was reluctant and trying to stall. He sent another message, "If you want the divorce, do it now. Stop making excuses." I ignored him and shut my phone off. The surgery lasted over 4 hours and finally concluded. Tyler Bennett told me it had been very successful. Now came further treatment, and I needed to prepare myself mentally. For me, that was already the best possible outcome. In my past life, I hadn't been able to protect her. This time, no matter what, she would survive. During her recovery, I never left her side. She never asked about her father, because I had already told her he was on a business trip. Over the years, Adam Brooks rarely called when away, let alone brought gifts for his daughter. At first, she had asked for him, but after a few video calls where he scolded her, she stopped asking altogether. I didn't plan to tell her about the divorce yet. I wanted her to recover first, then gradually accept it. One day, I went back to the hospital to get something and was suddenly blocked in the hallway. It was her Adam Brooks's lover, Sophia Young. She deliberately stopped me from leaving. "Move," I said. She didn't, instead smirking and sizing me up. "Still not divorced? Can't let go?" "No time," I said, keeping my anger in check. She pushed further. "No time, or can't let go. He doesn't love you anymore, so why are you clinging? This isn't your concern, third party." "Step aside," I snapped. "What if I don't?" she taunted. She was deliberately provoking me. I had no patience left. Without hesitation, I slapped her across the face. She stared at me, shocked. You, what?" I shot back. I swung with both hands, hitting her repeatedly. She scrambled, terrified. Some nurses tried to intervene, but I said, "I'm dealing with a homewrecker. Anyone who interferes gets hurt." No one dared approach after that. "You're crazy, you're insane," Sophia Young screamed. I didn't care what she said. I grabbed her hair and kept swinging. Just as I was getting into it, someone grabbed my wrist. I turned to see Adam Brooks, face cold. "What are you doing?" I smirked casually. "What else? Tearing apart a homewrecker." He was left speechless. Seeing him as her protector, Sophia Young darted behind him, crying, "Adam, she's hitting me." Surrounded by people watching the spectacle, Adam Brooks lost face. In a fit of rage, he slapped me. Smack. The air seemed to shudder from the impact. The onlookers whispered among themselves. "That must be the mother of the child in room 502. How tragic, her daughter has cancer, and her husband is off with some mistress. No wonder it's always been just her taking care of the child all this time. Adam Brooks looked at me in shock, and his anger vanished. What cancer? What's going on? I covered my face, tears welling up in my eyes, but a faint, bitter smile curved my lips. Now you suddenly care about the child. Too late. Not wanting to see him any longer, I turned and walked away. He grabbed my arm, pulling me back. Explain yourself. There's nothing to say, I said, yanking my arm free. I pulled so hard that I almost lost my balance and nearly fell, only to be steadied by someone from behind. Tyler Bennett's calm voice came to my ear. If you cause any more trouble in this hospital, I'll have to call security. The guards arrived and dispersed the crowd. Sophia Young was taken back to her room, leaving only Adam Brooks, staring at me, unwilling to leave. Why didn't you tell me about Chloe Hall? She's my daughter too, he demanded. You know she's your daughter, but have you ever cared for her? Spent a birthday with her? Taken her to school? Known what she likes? I fired back. Adam Brooks was left speechless, unable to answer a single question. I closed my eyes, patience gone. Say nothing else. Divorce. I didn't let him see our daughter. Instead, I took him straight to the civil affairs office to finalize the divorce. The moment the papers were signed, a wave of relief washed over me. No regret, no attachment, only freedom. He tried to stop me as I walked out. You're not even sad? No regrets? I looked at him coldly. Sad about what? Regret what? A man who's lost his heart is worth less than trash. His face flushed red and blue. Clenching his fists, he ground his teeth. She and I haven't done anything. Still lying at this point, I pressed my phone into his face, showing the video. His pupils widened, then quickly narrowed again. So you knew all along? Not really. I just wish I had realized your true nature sooner, so I wouldn't have wasted so many years giving my all. After the divorce, I felt much lighter. Chloe Hall's condition stabilized, and after a week in the hospital, she was discharged. Life returned to normal, though she still had to visit the hospital regularly for ongoing treatment. Because we rented Tyler Bennett's apartment, we naturally grew closer. He lived nearby, so we often crossed paths when he finished work. There were times he helped with household issues, wiring, lights, and so on. Despite his busy schedule, he always made time to help and even tutored Chloe Hall in her studies. Chloe would complain I was too harsh while teaching her, losing patience if she didn't understand after 3 tries. Then she'd run to Tyler Bennett, backpack in tow, and come back boasting that he only had to explain once, and she got it perfectly, unlike with me. I couldn't help but laugh, then shrug. It became routine. The calm monotony of life gained an unexpected spark with him around. I never imagined it could go further until he confessed his feelings. I asked, why me? The hospital was full of beautiful women. With his credentials, he could have had anyone. His eyes sparkled as he smiled. Would you believe me if I said you look like my ex-wife? I shook my head. No, if you really looked like her, you'd be running the other way, not falling for me. So then, why ask why at all? He said. True adult relationships don't need too many reasons. What matters is compatibility, whether life together works. After youthful impulsiveness, now we just wanted steady progress. I was evidently suitable for him, and he for me. But it was also this lack of youthful thrill that had driven my previous partner to seek excitement elsewhere. A failed marriage teaches more than pain and frustration, it teaches experience. My lesson: never be completely devoted, never revolve entirely around a man, and know when to let go. Tyler Bennett's lesson: love openly, show it, and never lose passion. Soon, a tale of a doctor and a patient's family reaching love spread through the hospital, inspiring many to follow suit. The hospital eventually had to put up a notice, looking for love. Visit the next door matchmaking agency. Members enjoy 15 off. A few days later, the notice ended up in the trash. When I mentioned it, Tyler Bennett shook his head. If it were that easy, everyone would find true love. I asked suspiciously. Your supervisors didn't stop you? They approved it. Just told me to post less on social media. Before long it was almost Chloe Hall's birthday. I went to pick her up from school but didn't see her. Panic set in as I asked her teacher. She's been picked up, the teacher said. By whom? Her father. Adam Brooks, missing for months, suddenly reappeared. My heart sank. He had never cared for our child, let alone picked her up after school. Why now? I couldn't trust him. He was the kind of man who might fake being kidnapped. Who knew what he might do? Tyler Bennett was in surgery, so I couldn't call him. I grabbed a can of pepper spray from my bag and dialed Adam Brooks. A hoarse voice answered. Hello? Where have you taken Chloe Hall? I kept my tone calm, trying not to provoke him while our daughter was in his hands. He paused 2 or 3 seconds, then said smoothly, home. Where else? Which home? Where exactly are you? I'm coming right now. Which home do we have? His words threw me off. I thought he was messing with me, and my emotions boiled over. I yelled, Adam Brooks, have you lost your mind? Didn't you already sell that house? There was a problem with the deal. It didn't go through. I hung up and ran back immediately. The Kaycane still held the old keys, not because I was sentimental, but simply because I had forgotten to remove them. I opened the door, and a strong smell of barbecue hit me. I rushed inside, calling out, Chloe Hall. Hearing my voice, both father and daughter looked up from the skewers, sauce still smeared on their faces. I let out a relieved breath and walked over, gently hugging my daughter. Thank goodness you're okay. Adam Brooks, however, didn't look pleased. He set down the skewers, scowling at me. You think I'd do anything to her? She's my daughter, I'd never harm her. That certainly wasn't guaranteed, but I said nothing. I just stroked Chloe's hair and softly said, it's late. Time to go home. This is her home, Adam Brooks suddenly interjected. I stared at him, bewildered. Some things shouldn't be said in front of a child. Even though Chloe knew we were divorced, we had an unspoken agreement never to bring it up. Let's go home, I said, ignoring him. Chloe, as always, obeyed, wiping her mouth with a napkin before following me. Then Adam Brooks's voice turned hoarse. She tricked me. I gave her all my savings, including my mother's money, and she ran off with it. Thank goodness the house wasn't sold, or I'd have nowhere to live. He slumped to the floor like a beaten dog, looking pitiful. But I didn't feel any sympathy. This was all of his own making. I neither comforted nor mocked him, just took Chloe's hand and left. Suddenly he jumped up, grabbed my hand, and pleaded, honey, can we start over? Please just give me one more chance. It was my fault before. I swear I'll never do that again. I'll treat you right from now on. I couldn't help but laugh inwardly. Since when did he think I'd wait around for him to come crawling back? I looked at him with a cold expression. Stop shouting. We're divorced. The past is over. No one lives there forever. We've been together for over a decade. Do you think it's that easy to just move on? He said, stepping toward me, eyes wild with desperation. This wasn't the man I knew. I felt alienated, even repulsed. I didn't like entanglement. If we were over, it should be over completely. Besides, his sudden change of heart was only because his mistress had deceived him. I smiled faintly. After all these years, you still changed your heart, didn't you? I truly know I was wrong. Just forgive me this once. I promise, I'll treat you like before, I swear, he said earnestly. I didn't want to engage further. I turned to leave, but he grabbed my arm, pinned me against the wall, and tried to force a kiss. At that moment, Tyler Bennett appeared. He swung a powerful punch, knocking Adam Brooks to the floor. Standing over him, he pushed him away and warned, "Stay away from my girlfriend." Then he wrapped me in his arms and guided me out. From behind, Adam Brooks's voice rang out in disbelief. "Girlfriend? You two, when did this happen?" I didn't even look back, leaving only one answer, "None of your business." After that, Adam Brooks began appearing around me, sometimes deliberately, sometimes by accident. He even started picking up Chloe from school daily, trying to win me back. I had had enough. One day, I stopped him at the school gate and warned, "If you come near Chloe again, we'll disappear together immediately." He looked at me sincerely. "I'm her father. Of course I should care about her." I laughed through my anger. "Where were you before? A man who can even forget his child's birthday has the nerve to call himself her father." "Birthday?" He furrowed his brow, apparently realizing he had forgotten. "Exactly," I said mockingly. Just then, Chloe Hall came out of school. Almost at the same time, Tyler Bennett appeared behind us. Chloe's eyes lit up, and she shouted excitedly, "Uncle Tyler." I turned in surprise. Tyler Bennett was holding a cake in one hand and a large stuffed toy in the other, the rare limited edition one Chloe had been wanting for ages. She ran past Adam Brooks and me, happily accepting the gift, her eyes crescent-shaped with joy. I said to Adam Brooks, "Stop deceiving yourself." "Mom, let's go home, I want Kate," Chloe exclaimed. I nodded and smiled at her, then turned to Adam Brooks to say goodbye. Chloe waved to Adam Brooks. "Bye, Dad." Though she still called him Dad, the bond between them had long since eroded through his repeated indifference. Now it felt forced and distant. Adam Brooks froze, speechless. Later, Tyler Bennett and I got engaged. Adam Brooks showed up uninvited, drunk at the ceremony, and called me wife in front of everyone. I was furious, my face darkening. He grinned arrogantly, and I couldn't contain myself. I threw my drink in his face. Even as he sobered up, he didn't back down. He tried to force a kiss, though he was stopped in time. I reported him for sexual harassment. He was detained for a few days, which finally made him somewhat restrained. His mother, believing her son had suffered a grave injustice, came to confront me. I simply played her the video of Adam Brooks and Sophia Young, leaving her speechless. I told her, "It's your son who cheated. If there's a problem, go talk to him." Her attitude shifted immediately. She gave a nervous laugh. "Maybe there's been some misunderstanding. Even now you still call it a misunderstanding? Should I show you some photos from the bedroom too?" Hearing that, his mother shook her head frantically. "And no, that won't be necessary." "Good. From now on, don't ever show your face in front of me again." "But Chloe Hall is still my granddaughter. Don't I at least get to see her?" "I don't want your alimony, and you won't get close to Chloe Hall ever again." I was firm, leaving his mother stunned. "After all, I used to be completely obedient to their family." She muttered quietly, "You weren't like this before. People change." Just as he changed, I changed my stance. "Sorry, I have something else to do. Please go ahead." After that, I never gave them a chance to see Chloe Hall. If it's a clean break, it has to be total. A year later, Tyler Bennett and I got married. To completely distance ourselves from Adam Brooks's family, we took advantage of a hospital personnel transfer to leave the city. Chloe Hall also transferred schools, and life became peaceful for the first time in a long while. Then one day, I received a strange phone call. The voice was distorted, deliberately lowered. "Your husband is in my hands. Prepare 2 million or you'll only see his corpse." Husband? Tyler Bennett was just in the shower. Instinctively, I walked to the bathroom and knocked on the door. "What is it, dear?" came his voice from inside. "Nothing," I replied and hung up. Some scammer, trying such a crude lie. But not long after, the call came again, this time from a different number, probably from another payphone. I was wrong. "Not your husband, your ex. Hurry up and get the money." The voice was aggressive. I rolled my eyes. "You know it's my ex. Which ex-wife would care about her ex-husband's life or death? Go tell Adam Brooks yourself. One lousy lie is enough. I don't have time for him." I hung up. Tyler Bennett came out of the shower, noticing my irritation. "What's wrong? Who upset you?" "Nothing. Just a scam call," I said. I didn't think much of it and soon forgot about it entirely. Whether it was a scam or Adam Brooks trying his tricks again, it no longer mattered to me. Sometime later, I happened to scroll through the news. The police had solved a kidnapping case. The victim had been dismembered and buried in the mountains. After several days of investigation, they found the body. Forensic analysis preliminarily identified the deceased as a 37-year-old man. 37 years old, what a coincidence. Adam Brooks was 37. I recalled the previous scam call. Could it be that he was really kidnapped? Following the news further, I saw that the police had confirmed the identity of the dead man, Adam Brooks. Among the suspects, there was a woman with the surname Young. The full name wasn't revealed, but my mind immediately jumped to Sophia Young. I froze for a moment. At the same time, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of irony. He had faked a kidnapping to get money for his mistress, the mistress had run off with the money, and now he was genuinely kidnapped, possibly even by the very woman he had tried to help. Unfortunately this time, I didn't rush to save him like before. Fate and timing had decided it. Mom, what are you looking at? Chloe Hall suddenly appeared in the room. I quickly closed the laptop and smiled at her gently. Nothing. Are you hungry? Mom will make you something to eat. Okay, she replied with a sweet smile. I ruffled her hair and headed to the kitchen. As for Adam Brooks, I decided not to tell her anything. Let it all be over. Maybe it's just a coincidence with the name. After being reborn, I abandoned Daniel Wilson and his ungrateful son. In my previous life, when I was so enraged that I ended up hospitalized, Daniel Wilson was off traveling the world with Brooklyn James. Brooklyn has contributed so much to the company over the years. She's been feeling down lately, so I'm taking her out for some fresh air, he said. As I lay there on the brink of death, my own son, just like his father, showed no sign of care, only adding fuel to the fire. Mom, my dad owes his career success to Brooklyn. She's smart and capable. You're just a housewife completely unworthy of him. Stop holding him back. Looking at my hands, pale and delicate in the sunlight, I covered my lips and cried tears of joy. I had been reborn. There was still time to start over. At the last moment before the volunteer application closed, I applied to pursue my graduate studies at the University of Pennsylvania. My best friend was baffled. Wait, I thought you weren't going to grad school. You were supposed to follow Daniel Wilson to Chongqing after graduation. Now you're going so far away. Doesn't that just give that wretched Brooklyn James the perfect opportunity? My friend was straightforward and outspoken, detesting scheming women and especially disliking Brooklyn James. I too once couldn't understand why Daniel Wilson would be attracted to someone like Brooklyn James, a woman so defaced. I no longer wished to waste my energy on someone who didn't matter. I shrugged, carefree and liberated. There are plenty of men. If she wants him, she can have him. Madeline Stone, I didn't think you'd ever come to this realization. I thought you'd hang on to that crooked tree of Daniel Wilson forever. I shook my head but didn't answer, only smiling silently. Back home, I started packing my things. A photo on the table caught my eye. Handsome man, beautiful woman, and I felt a flicker of disorientation. In my previous life, I hadn't gone to grad school. I married Daniel Wilson right after college, and soon after, I became pregnant. Daniel Wilson inherited the Wilson family's gene for multiple births. I gave birth to triplets all at once. To take care of my pregnancy and children, I lost my job immediately after college and became a full-time housewife. Before the age of 21, I had been a sheltered young lady, never lifting a finger for anything. After dating Daniel Wilson, I took on all the housework, cooking, cleaning, and childcare without complaint. Daniel Wilson once said the company's finances were tight and the children were better off with their biological mother, so I dismissed the nanny and personally cared for 3 children around the clock. When Daniel Wilson expanded the Chongqing market, he soon went to Denmark to develop the Nordic market. Our time together grew increasingly sparse. But wherever he went, he always brought Brooklyn James and her daughter along, claiming she was his assistant because she was convenient to have around. At the time, I never suspected them. I even sympathized with Daniel Wilson, understanding his tireless travels and telling him to focus on his career, assuring him the home would be fine. Meanwhile, I remained confined to a small corner of Chongqing. My world revolved around the stove and 3 children. In the end, all I got in return was a cheating husband, resentful children, and a body worn down by illness. The 3 children I had raised with endless care and sleepless nights grew to despise me. Their attachment and love turned to hatred and distance, ultimately driving them into Daniel Wilson's arms. Eventually, the 3 brothers even fought viciously over Brooklyn James' daughter. I only learned of it because the fight got so out of hand that the police had to intervene. Daniel Wilson took Brooklyn James on a business trip to Sweden. The police had to call me, a housebound woman, to come to the station to sign papers and pick up the kids. When I arrived, none of the 3 showed me a shred of warmth. They looked at me with nothing but contempt. "Why are you here?" one demanded, carefully watching Samantha Gray's reaction. After that, it became routine for the 3 brothers to bicker violently over Samantha Gray, and they would always come to me afterward, blaming me. "Mom, my dad owes all his success to Brooklyn. If you weren't in the way, she'd already be with him. Mom, you're just a housewife, you're not fit for my dad. Why do you insist on keeping the position of Daniel Wilson's wife? Mom, think of my dad. He's devoted his life to this family. Can't you just let him be happy in the second half of his life?" Even Samantha Gray, a junior family member and an outsider, would point at me and demand, "My mom and godfather suffered so much. Why can't you just let them be happy? Don't you have a heart?" Everyone questioned why I wouldn't step aside for Daniel Wilson and Brooklyn James. But if I gave in, who would give me a chance at happiness? I refused to accept such injustice. Daniel Wilson's Zhongchen market expansion was funded by the money I sold our house for. His ventures into Denmark and the Nordic market were financed by my entire fortune. He succeeded while bringing Brooklyn James around the world, wrapped in romance and indulgence. I refused to accept that. When my youngest child fell ill with a fever at 2 in the morning, I dashed out barefoot, in pajamas, disheveled, one in my arms, one on my back, another in tow, taking them to the doctor while he went to someone else's daughter's dance competition, teaching a child English. I refused to accept that. I gave everything to this family, my wealth, my energy, my blood and bone. In the end, I was left betrayed by those closest to me, abandoned by my husband and children, and weakened by illness. My closest kin judged me. My partner judged me. Outsiders judged me. All of them said the same thing. I did not deserve Daniel Wilson. If I'm so unworthy, then why do I still cling to what was never mine? Why do I insist on being the cruel one? Yes, I am cruel. But I was once young and radiant, full of life and reckless abandon. Now looking at these gaunt, fragile hands, pale as paper, in that hospital gown, my hollow eyes flickered. As long as I am alive, I will not give up this marriage. I will hold them at bay. While I live, they will never have a legitimate claim. What happens after I die is no longer my concern. But as long as I am alive, Daniel Wilson's wife will never be that Brooklyn James. Years of anger and frustration, stress eating away at my heart. My illness worsened. Finally, I died on my birthday, in that same winter I had first met Daniel Wilson. I died in the winter when my 3 sons once again tried to convince me to divorce their father. They refused to give up, even when faced with my stubbornness. Their visits escalated from once a month, to every 2 weeks, then every 3 days. Every time, the opening line was the same: "Have you decided? Will you agree to divorce, Dad?" That day, I argued fiercely with the 3 of them. My eyelashes trembled, suffocating pressure crawling through every limb and fiber of my being. My hoarse voice tore through the air as I shouted at them, yet they merely paused for a moment, then, indifferent, walked away, shutting the door behind them. In that instant, blood rushed backward in my veins. Watching their cold, uncaring backs disappear, regret spread through my organs and limbs like a corrosive poison. Why did I ever bring such children into this world? Why did I meet Daniel Wilson, fall for him so blindly, and sacrifice everything? And now, this is the tragic end I reaped. Fortunately, I was reborn. Reborn before I married Daniel Wilson. This time, the situation is still unsettled. everything can be rewritten. Back home, I packed my important documents and bank cards, locking them safely in the safe. No cooking today. I ordered takeout with a few taps on my phone. Gazing at the spacious, sunlit apartment before me, I felt a momentary dizziness. This house was my inheritance from my parents. In my previous life, I had sold this $8 million property without hesitation to raise funds for Daniel Wilson. I am an only child, and my parents died unexpectedly when I was 21. After their passing, I had no family left. No one loved me. So in my last life, when Daniel Wilson offered me the slightest warmth, I fell for him so easily. This time, even though I will sell the house for my study abroad, it will no longer be for Daniel Wilson. With half an hour before the delivery arrived, I used the time to take photos and videos of the apartment, contacting the agent to list it online. Looking at the circled date on the calendar, my brows furrowed. That was the day I was supposed to go to Zhongcheng. Once, I had looked forward to it. Now, I hated it. That day marked the beginning of a lifetime of misery. I grabbed a red pen and scribbled over the date, but it wasn't enough. I took the entire calendar to my study and shredded it. Opening my phone, I glanced at my graduation date. A faint sparkle lit up my eyes. Soon, very soon. Just a little longer. Soon, I could leave behind all the people and things that made me miserable. My life was about to start anew. A few minutes before the takeout arrived, I had just opened the boxes, ready to eat. Daniel Wilson returned. With him came Brooklyn James, and her 5-year-old daughter. My eyes fell on the spread of takeout dishes all covered in bright red chili oil. Daniel Wilson's brow furrowed. Why didn't you cook today? I gave him a cold glance and sneered, whoever wants to cook, go ahead. He choked on his words. At that moment, Samantha Gray, who had been hiding in the background, ran over. She looked at the table, terrified by all the spicy dishes, and burst into tears. Mom, it's all chili, I hate spicy food. Brooklyn James quickly crouched to comfort her daughter, shooting me a look of grievance. Miss Madeline, if you didn't want us here, you should have said so. There's no need to humiliate us like this. I looked at her quietly, a cold laugh escaping my lips. This is my house. If you're not welcome, leave now. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Brooklyn James' eyes reddened in anger as she grabbed Samantha Gray and left. Daniel Wilson followed but, before leaving, cast me a glance full of confusion and a hint of resentment. At 10 that night, Daniel Wilson returned. He knocked on my door. Madeline Stone, come out. We need to talk. I opened the door, my gaze icy and mocking. Taken aback by the cold, unfamiliar look, Daniel Wilson's expression softened. Concern crept into his voice. What's wrong with you today? Why are you in such a bad mood? Are you feeling unwell? I stepped back, avoiding his reaching hand, my disdain blatant. Too lazy to cook. He choked on his words. Pinching the bridge of his nose, he said, I told you I'd bring Brooklyn and Samantha over for dinner tonight. You agreed to it. Agreed. That was the Madeline Stone from my past life, not the one standing in front of him now. Daniel Wilson, frustrated, pressed on before I could speak. Not only did you refuse to cook, you deliberately ordered all these spicy dishes. Who is this for? How do you expect Brooklyn and her daughter to react? Yes, he called his fiancée by her full name, but referred to another woman as simply Brooklyn. How had I never noticed such an obvious detail before? I shot back at him, they can think whatever they want. I'm their mother, not their deity. I don't care what they think. Daniel Wilson's pupils constricted in shock. He hadn't expected me to be so ruthless. After a long pause, he finally regained his voice, speaking with careful, almost pleading reasoning. I've already told you, there's nothing between me and her. Ryan Taylor literally saved my life. After he passed, he left Brooklyn and her daughter alone. I have to take care of them, both morally and emotionally. I gave him a cold glance. Take care of them all you want, I won't stop you. Just don't drag me into it. Daniel Wilson looked puzzled, clearly feeling wronged. He didn't understand why I had suddenly grown sharp as a blade. Weren't we supposed to be together? Besides, we're moving to Zhangcheng soon. I'm busy every day. When would I have time to cook? So that's why I have to take care of their meals and everything else, I scoffed. Daniel Wilson, I owe you nothing. I just thought your cooking was good, and she doesn't know how to cook. Then let her learn, nobody knows how to cook the first time. Daniel Wilson frowned. Are you on edge today? Yes, don't provoke me. If I'm not happy, no one else will be either. You're completely unreasonable. I'm unreasonable. Now pack your things and go find that reasonable woman of yours. He assumed I was jealous, and of course, it spilled onto him as well. I told you there's nothing between Brooklyn and me. How can you not believe me? We're getting married soon. Even if you're upset, there's a limit. I didn't bother to explain. Once I bought the house, someone would naturally force him out anyway. Daniel Wilson decided that tonight wasn't a good time to talk and suggested a few days of cooling off. He went back to the company to sleep. I didn't mind. He'd better never come back. That night, I slept like a baby. The next day, I took our marriage certificate and flew to the Wilson family estate in Yen City to formally cancel the wedding. The Wilsons had once been a prominent family, though Daniel Wilson's father's generation had seen their influence wane. When I explained my purpose, Daniel Wilson's mother held my hand, full of concern, instinctively worried that Daniel might have wronged me. The elderly couple had treated me kindly in both lives. In my previous life, after Daniel Wilson's infidelity was exposed, the two elders were humiliated, and within a short time, passed away due to stress and grief. Daniel Wilson's father regarded me silently for a long moment, and asked, "Child, did Daniel bully you? Tell me, and I'll deal with him." I shook my head, saying only that I wanted to cancel the marriage. Seeing my determination, they didn't press further but refused to let go lightly. They insisted that the annulment had to wait until Daniel Wilson returned, since the token of the engagement was in his possession. Thanks to memories from my past life, I knew exactly where the token was kept. I told them Daniel Wilson had already agreed to cancel the marriage, and had informed me where the token was. He was too busy to come, so I could collect it myself. Sure enough, I found both the token and the marriage certificate exactly where I said they would be. My resolve strengthened. The elderly couple had no reason to obstruct me any longer and returned my token. I returned the Wilson family's token and destroyed the annulment documents. At last, the marriage was officially dissolved. Since Daniel Wilson was busy with an important project and his partners valued personal integrity, the elders asked me to delay announcing the annulment. I agreed. It suited my purpose. Before I left, I had no intention of performing Daniel Wilson's usual chase and retreat routine. Outside, holding the jade pendant that had been passed down through generations, I felt completely liberated. By the time I returned home, it was already 11 in the evening. Daniel Wilson seemed drunk. He sat in the living room, looking agitated. Seeing me, a faint smile lit up his eyes. "You're back." I responded coldly. As I tried to walk past him, he hurriedly stood to stop me. I sidestepped without a hint of emotion. He didn't get angry, just asked, "Have you eaten dinner?" "Yes," I replied, still icy. "Are you still mad?" He was clearly puzzled by my detached attitude. "No, then why are you so quiet? Weren't you always so talkative before?" I gave him a cool glance, uninterested in arguing. "Anything else?" Seeing my bright, striking face, Daniel Wilson seemed distracted, leaning closer. "We're about to get married. Want it tonight?" I frowned. "I thought we were following the rules. Now you're trying to break them? But we're going to be husband and wife soon. A few days sooner or later doesn't matter." After a whole day of travel, I was exhausted and had no energy to argue. I came up with a casual excuse. "It's my period." "Not convenient." Daniel Wilson stared at me intently, probably doubting my words. Just as I prepared another excuse, he suddenly grinned. "No wonder you've been so irritable these past few days." Seeing my expression remain cold, he tried to placate me. "Does your stomach hurt? Want some brown sugar water?" Before I could answer, he continued on his own. I'll go make it. Wait here a moment. He staggered toward the kitchen. Not even 3 meters away, his phone rang. It was Brooklyn James. Daniel Wilson frowned deeply and hung up. He ran back apologetically. Samantha has a fever, and Brooklyn caught it too. You make the brown sugar water yourself for now. I'll make it for you tomorrow after checking on them. I looked at him inferently, my gaze completely detached. Daniel Wilson didn't pause to question my odd behavior, he just grabbed his coat and rushed out the door. I snorted lightly and went back to the bedroom. I put the jade pendant, my ID, and bank cards together in the safe and locked it before heading to take a shower. After the shower, my best friend called to tell me she'd managed to get tickets to a Top Idols concert. It was scheduled for tomorrow night and she asked if I wanted to go. I gladly agreed, of course I would go. In my previous life, I'd always suppressed myself, but this time, I wasn't going to hold back. That evening after the concert, Daniel Wilson still hadn't returned. I felt nothing. For 3 consecutive days, he didn't come back, and I enjoyed a few peaceful days at home. During that time, I went to the school to handle graduation matters and even showed an apartment to a client. Everything went smoothly. The thought of leaving soon made my heart leap with excitement. To celebrate my upcoming fresh start, I ordered pizza, milk tea, and desserts. Sitting at the dining table, I watched a comedy while devouring pizza, sipping milk tea, and tasting the sweets. I was fully immersed in my little feast when Daniel Wilson came home bringing Brooklyn James and her daughter with him. Brooklyn James looked flawless, radiant, and showed no signs of a recent illness. Samantha Gray looked a bit tired, clearly not fully recovered yet. Daniel Wilson, catching my cold glare, nervously explained. Brooklyn's house was broken into, their lock was tampered with, so they stayed with us for a few days. I gave them a nonchalant look and said, Ignoring Samantha Gray's envious, drooling expression, I grabbed the leftover pizza, desserts, and milk tea and threw them all into the trash before retreating to my bedroom. Voices from the living room drifted faintly. Mom, I want pizza, milk tea, and strawberry cake too. Daniel Wilson comforted her softly, don't worry, your godfather will order them. Samantha, whatever else you want today, you can have it too. And just like that, Brooklyn James and her daughter settled in. The next day, while I was out, my room was completely ransacked, looking no different from a burglary scene. Clothes and bags were strewn across the floor, makeup products scattered everywhere. It was impossible to step inside. My temper snapped. Seeing me storm in, Samantha Gray screamed and burst into tears. Hearing her, Daniel Wilson, who was cooking in the kitchen, grabbed a spatula and rushed over, kneeling down to soothe her patiently. In my previous life, Daniel Wilson had never held our son, let alone comforted him like this. Once Samantha Gray calmed down, Daniel Wilson stood up, face tight with anger. I know you don't like Brooklyn and Samantha, but they're guests. You don't have to go overboard. Are you really going to pick a fight with a 5-year-old? What guest? Did I invite them here? This is my house. They're trespassers, I said coldly. I've already bent over backward, so why don't you pack up your mistress and stepdaughter and leave my house? Go somewhere that doesn't mind, doesn't argue, and happily welcomes all 3 of you. Daniel Wilson frowned. Madeline Stone, since when did you become so harsh? My cold eyes lifted in mockery. I sneered, I've always been this harsh. Infuriated, Daniel Wilson was gasping, you're utterly unreasonable. He left with Brooklyn James and Samantha Gray to eat out. I returned to my room and frowned at the mess. This place was unlivable. Grabbing my ID and a few clothes, I took a taxi to a hotel. Daniel Wilson kept calling that night, but I was annoyed by the incessant ringing and finally rolled my eyes before answering. Where are you? At a hotel. Which hotel? Is there a problem? I'll come find you. I'm going to sleep. Don't disturb me unless it's important. I have something to say to you. I snapped back, aren't we talking right now? Tired of his clinginess, I just gave him an address. When we met, his first words were an apology. "I'm sorry. I didn't know your room had been made such a mess." I stayed silent. He added, "If you don't like them, I won't let them come to the house again." I gave a cold, indifferent response, but at least it was a response. Daniel Wilson brightened. "Do you want to come home with me? I've already tidied the room." "No. Why not if the room's ready?" I looked up with an emotional gaze. "No reason. I just don't want to." I glanced at the luxury suite. Daniel Wilson tried to save face. "I suppose the room is expensive, and the fees paid. It'd be a waste not to stay." "Come back tomorrow then." Not wanting more conflict, I moved back the next morning. After that, to avoid upsetting me, Daniel Wilson didn't see Brooklyn James for several days. But his mind was elsewhere. One call from Brooklyn, and he'd rush out immediately. He approached me hesitantly. "Brooklyn got grazed by a car at the market. I'm going to check on her." I said, absorbed in my book, utterly emotionless. Fearing I might be upset, he added, "I'll be back soon. I'll make dinner for you tonight." As he hurried out, I set down my book, dark eyes fixed on the door, a playful, mocking smile curling on my lips. That night, Daniel Wilson came back still with Brooklyn James and Samantha Gray. He looked a little embarrassed as he explained. "Brooklyn hurt her hand. She and her daughter can't really take care of themselves, so they're staying with us for a few days." I shot him a mocking glance and said, "Whatever. Just don't let them bother me." Thinking I was still upset about last time, Daniel Wilson hurried to reassure me. "No, I'll keep Samantha in check. She won't run into your room." I didn't even turn my head as I walked to the bedroom, and Daniel Wilson called after me. "I'm making dinner. Rest for a bit. I'll call you when it's ready." I didn't need his food, never had in the past, and never would in this life. Before they even sat down to eat, my takeout had already arrived. Brooklyn James leaned toward Daniel Wilson, biting her lip with a pitiful expression. "Is Miss Madeline still mad?" Seeing me ignore them as I carried my takeout to my room, Daniel Wilson felt a pang of hurt himself. He withdrew his gaze coldly. "Don't mind her. Let her be dramatic." Then he called Brooklyn and her daughter to eat quickly. After finishing, I stepped out to throw away my takeout containers, hearing their cheerful chatter slowly drift behind me. I paused for a second, then continued walking. Spotting me, Brooklyn James called out, "Miss Madeline, do you want some chicken soup?" Daniel spent a whole hour making it. "It's delicious." Before I could answer, Samantha Gray gave me a disdainful glance and urged Brooklyn James, "Mom, I want soup first. Serve me first." Daniel Wilson's face was full of indulgence as he handed Samantha Gray a bowl. "Your godfather will serve you." Mom hurt her hand. Watching the three of them at the table, so happy and intimate, like a little family of three, I didn't hesitate for a second. I kept walking. Not wanting to return to her toxic atmosphere, I wandered downstairs for an hour before heading back. But when I got home, the suffocating tension hadn't dissipated. I opened the door to find Daniel Wilson massaging Brooklyn James' ankle in the living room. Noticing me, guilt flickered across his face for a brief moment. Suppressing the awkwardness, he stood up to explain. "Brooklyn twisted her ankle on the way back from the bathroom. Her hand's still injured, so that's why I ignored him and went straight to my bedroom." Brooklyn James glanced at Daniel Wilson and carefully asked, "Miss Madeline, did you misunderstand? Should I explain?" Daniel Wilson's expression was calm but carried a faint resentment. "We're completely in the right. Why worry? It's her own twisted thoughts that misinterpret things." In the following days, the flirty, almost intimate atmosphere between Daniel Wilson and Brooklyn James was impossible to ignore. At first, Daniel Wilson was awkward while massaging her ankle, but seeing my total lack of reaction, the two of them became increasingly brazen. Brooklyn James' bathwater was drawn by Daniel Wilson, her clothes hung to dry by him, and even her underwear and bras. He took care of everything. They were inseparable, like Siamese twins. Aside from kissing or sleeping together, they did everything else couples normally do. I even thought, If I weren't here, blocking their eyes, they'd probably have jumped into bed already. Tomorrow was my flight, and the lease expired tomorrow. After that I would start my new life. Everything here would be none of my concern. I double-checked my important documents, packed the last few scattered items, and pulled out my pajamas to take a shower. The faucet pipe was cracked. It had obviously been cut with a knife. I spotted the pink toy knife on the floor and my eyes narrowed. Grabbing the toy knife and the broken pipe, I stormed into the living room and slammed them onto the floor. My voice was low and sharp. Who did this? The three of them froze in fear. Samantha Gray immediately hid behind Brooklyn James. My gaze cut straight to her. Daniel Wilson stepped forward, blocking my eyes from settling on Samantha Gray. She didn't mean to. I'll get it fixed tomorrow. Go wash up in my room first. The self-righteous tone made me snort in disbelief. She did something wrong, and every time you just brush it off with she didn't mean to. She's just a kid, she doesn't understand. Daniel Wilson, how long are you planning to protect them? Daniel Wilson frowned, confused at my anger. Kids naturally like to play. Madeline Stone, why are you so petty, so picky, so fixated on a 5-year-old? Yes, I'm petty. I care, I said with a cold laugh. If I were petty, you three wouldn't even be standing in my house talking to me right now. If I were petty, you two would never have had the chance to do all those filthy, shameless things under my nose these past few days. If I were petty, the moment they first set foot in my home, I would have called the police. Daniel Wilson's face turned red with anger. You're completely unreasonable, insane. Yes, I'm unreasonable. You and your woman and daughter get out of my house. Don't talk nonsense. How many times do I have to say it? Brooklyn and I have done nothing. Samantha isn't my daughter. She's just my goddaughter. I sneered coldly. Yes, you pretend to take care of your friend's widow, yet you flirt with her and do every intimate thing couples do. Tell me, if your friend knew in the afterlife that this is how you take care of his wife, could he rest in peace? He'd probably leap out of his grave in the middle of the night just to strangle you in anger. Hit by my mocking words, Daniel Wilson staggered backward, unsteady on his feet. The veins on his neck bulged, his face flushed crimson, his expression taut. It was clear he was mortified, utterly embarrassed, and caught off guard by how sharply I'd struck. After a long moment, his low, hoarse voice broke the silence. If you're really that unwelcoming, I'll move him out. Everything's mostly settled in Chongqing, and tomorrow afternoon we'll go get our marriage certificate so you don't have to keep doubting me. The condescending tone almost made me think I'd scored some ridiculous favor. As if I ever would. Huh. I just smiled silently, watching them leave with a sneer. After Daniel Wilson and the others left, I slept soundly that night. The next morning, I handed over the keys to the new tenant, bid my best friend farewell, and dragged my suitcase to the airport. I had slept well the night before, and surprisingly, I slept just as soundly on the plane. Perhaps this is what it feels like to live free of worries, eating, sleeping, and resting without a care. Once I arrived at school, I threw myself into my studies with intense focus. In my previous life, I didn't pursue graduate studies and immediately fell into unemployment after college. This time I was determined to seize every opportunity, to do what I loved, and to live for myself alone. It wasn't until a week later that Daniel Wilson realized I had left without a word. He went into a frenzy, calling and messaging me incessantly, but no matter how relentlessly he tried, I didn't answer a single one. By the time I boarded the plane, I had blocked and deleted all of his contact information. I canceled my old phone number and got a new one. Unnecessary people don't need to be contacted for the rest of my life. Daniel Wilson turned the country upside down, but couldn't find so much as a trace of me. Consumed by his obsessive search, he hadn't even recovered from my disappearance when he learned it from his father, that I had quietly gone to Yancheng to break off our engagement. I had no idea myself. I only learned the truth when he finally found me 6 months later. When he saw me, he cried, saying how could I be so heartless, leaving without a trace. He told me he had been searching for me for so long. I watched him cry, throw tantrums, and lose control with the calm detachment of a customer service agent. Not a single emotion stirred within me. When he finally finished, I responded lightly. Daniel Wilson, Madeline Stone no longer loves you. He looked utterly incredulous. How is that possible? You loved me so much before. How could you just let go? I met his gaze calmly. I'm looking forward now. I hope you do too. As I turned to leave, he grabbed my wrist tightly, eyes bloodshot. What did I do wrong? Tell me, I'll change, I'll fix it, won't that be enough? I looked at him with eyes dark and unyielding, peeling his fingers off my wrist one by one. No matter what you become, I will never love you again. Watching my cold, retreating back, Daniel Wilson couldn't hide his resentment. Madeline, study hard. In 2 years, I'll come back for your answer. Afterward, Daniel Wilson began writing me letters regularly. At first, 1 per month. Then every 2 weeks. Then every 3 days. Later, it slowed to every 2 weeks, once a month, once every 2 months, and eventually, once every 6 months. After nearly a year of letters, his correspondence suddenly stopped. I looked at the pile of unopened letters stacked like a small mountain, feeling nothing. Once I was certain he wouldn't send any more, I destroyed every single unopened letter. On the day of my graduation photos, Daniel Wilson suddenly appeared after a long absence. The first words out of his mouth were, "You didn't read a single one of the letters I sent, did you?" I paused for a moment, then nodded calmly. He studied me in silence for a long while before giving a self-deprecating smile. Madeline Stone, you're far more ruthless than I am. With that he stumbled away, and Brooklyn James got out of the car, following him closely. I turned my gaze away and joined my classmates for the graduation photos. After graduation, I was recruited by Morgan Chase as an outstanding graduate. I specialized in quantitative analysis, and within just 2 years, I went from an intern to a project director capable of leading independently. It was there I met my husband, a Chinese-American client. His name was James Miller. James Miller fell for me at first sight. At first, I politely refused his advances. I didn't think I had the courage to love again. But he won me over with his gentlemanly charm, sophistication, attentiveness, and gentle care. Being with James Miller felt effortless and comfortable. He pursued me for 2 years. On Halloween, my birthday, we finally became a couple. We kissed in the bustling streets as if the world didn't exist. We dated for 4 years. Every morning, a bouquet of Corolla roses awaited me by my pillow. His gentle, tender kisses, our weekends and vacations spent exploring the world. He said we had lost so many years apart, but for the rest of our lives, he would show me the world. All its wonders together. During our relationship, James Miller proposed 30 times. When he proposed for the 30th time, I coquettously reached out my hand. He smiled knowingly and slipped a pink diamond ring onto my finger, indulgent and happy. James Miller, thank you for teaching me the courage to love again. For the rest of our lives, there's hope ahead. It was a week after Madeline left that I realized she was gone. In that instant, it felt as though the world had collapsed. I hadn't expected that leaving for just a few short days would erase the person I saw every day and every night from my world entirely. I began to replay all of Madeline's accusations and reproaches in my mind. The more I thought about them, the more ashamed I felt. As Madeline had said, my thoughts were filthy. I had allowed myself to desire another woman while engaged. And it was a woman who had been my childhood friend. I deserved nothing but condemnation. It wasn't until Madeline left that I had a clear awakening. I loved her. In this life, she was the only one for me. I resolved that I would find her at any cost. I had to apologize in person, confess in person, and beg for her forgiveness. I searched for Madeline for 3 months and found nothing. News of my desperate search reached my father, and that was when I learned that over 3 months ago, Madeline had already gone to Yen Cheng to formally end our engagement. I couldn't accept the reality. I locked myself in my room and drowned myself in alcohol, ignoring everything else, even work. 3 months passed in this despondency before I finally received news of Madeline. My dead, lifeless eyes suddenly ignited with sparks. I immediately booked the earliest flight to find her. How exhilarated I was to go, how humiliated I returned. It was a mess. Yet I refused to give up. I knew Madeline was still angry at me. No matter how she rejected me, no matter how she pushed me away, I persisted. I shamelessly wrote to her, apologized, confessed, and explained that I had nothing whatsoever with Brooklyn James. I promised her I would never meet Brooklyn James again. I wrote for an entire year. Not a single reply came. Frustrated, I drank again that night, drowning in my despair. Brooklyn James used a pre-prepared spare key to open my bedroom door. That night, she had dressed herself up to look like Madeline. I missed Madeline so much. I couldn't bear to wake from that dream. That night, everything happened, everything that should never have happened. A month later, Brooklyn James became pregnant triplets. The Wilson family, upon learning this, pressured me into marrying Brooklyn James immediately. I knew then I no longer had any right to Madeline. I accepted my fate. After marrying Brooklyn James, my career began a steep decline. She was always suspicious, constantly doubting me. Whenever I went out for business, she seemed to want to install a tracker on me. Back home, she would check my phone obsessively. If I spoke to a female client even casually, she would accuse me of having an affair. I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. She was paranoid day and night. Madeline hadn't even spared me a second glance. Later, several major business deals fell through because of her interference. Knowing they had such a neurotic tigress at home, many business partners gradually stopped collaborating with our company. Our company began to decline. Seeing that the business showed no improvement, and even worsened, she began to blame and mock me. "Daniel Wilson, I thought you were a promising stock, but you're just a worthless one." She declared that with me and her for children, we would never see success. As time passed, the children grew. For some reason, her 3 sons developed romantic feelings for their sister. I was furious and slapped each of them. Brooklyn James stormed in, shouting angrily, "Samantha isn't biologically related to them, and they aren't on the same household registration. Why can't they like each other?" Samantha Gray had been adopted from an orphanage by Brooklyn James. I only learned this fact over a decade into my marriage when we happened to do a blood test. The 3 boys persisted stubbornly, encouraged by their mother. I couldn't control them alone, so I had to let it go. The result? The 3 brothers constantly fought over Samantha Gray, often violently, sometimes landing themselves in police custody. Once I found out, I immediately sent the 3 sons abroad to study and ensured Samantha Gray married quickly. I figured a few years apart would cool their youthful impulses. After all, I was the head of the household, controlling all the financial lifeblood. 6 months later, Samantha Gray married the man of her choosing. I gave her a house as dowry, $500,000 in cash, and a $30,000 car. Within 3 months, her husband's true nature was revealed. Domestic violence, gambling, keeping mistresses, he did it all. He frequently beat Samantha Gray over minor matters. He came from a wealthy but unstable family and was extremely violent. Divorce was far from easy. Fortunately, there were no children, otherwise it would have been even worse. Seeing Samantha Gray return home battered each time, Brooklyn James scolded me for being a useless father. I could do nothing as my daughter was beaten. Though I had raised her, I couldn't bear to see her suffer. I leveraged every possible connection to support her divorce. Yet we underestimated the man's cruelty and psychopathy. On the way to finalize her divorce, he had a knife hidden in his waistband and stabbed Samantha Gray 16 times, each wound deadly. Less than a week after her death, the 3 sons were killed in Los Angeles. Street tracing and drugs ended with them executed in public. Before dying, the 3 had murmured over and over, "Mom, I'm sorry. Mom, I've wronged you. Mom, I deserve to die." I had thought they were speaking to Brooklyn James, but later I realized they were apologizing to Madeline. Brooklyn James, unable to cope with the consecutive deaths of her 3 sons and daughter, suddenly fell gravely ill. After waking up, she began to mumble incoherently, lost in a daze. All day long, she clutched a pillow to her chest, whispering the same words over and over. Madeline Stone, I'm sorry. Madeline Stone, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. It's me. It's my fault. I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. In that moment of trance, I realized something I hadn't thought about Madeline in a very long time. Life's relentless grinding had drained every ounce of my strength and focus, leaving me no space to think of anything else. Then suddenly, I remembered. The last time I saw Madeline was 5 years ago. She had come to Kyoto as the president of the Asia-Pacific region for Goldman Sachs. I only caught a glimpse of her from afar. I had no chance and no right to even say hello. She was radiant. Her career was flourishing, she shone brighter than ever, her beauty even more dazzling than in the past. Her husband was elegant, composed, endlessly gentle and attentive to her. The two of them were a picture of devotion, an industry legend that everyone spoke of admiringly. I'd heard they had a son and a daughter, both brilliant and well-mannered. And me? At 45, I had nothing. No career. A mad wife. Dead children. Gradually, my emotions grew unstable. I drifted off into dazes, startled awake at night, trapped in a fog of despair. Eventually, I was hit by a car while crossing the street. Ironically, that day, I'd felt more clear-headed than I had in years. A simple accident. A cruel twist of fate gripping my throat. When I woke up, I had regained the memories of my previous life. 2 lifetimes. 2 lifetimes, and in both, I had wronged the same girl who had loved me with all her heart. And in both lives, I ended in utter ruin. In my previous life, a month after Madeline's death, Brooklyn James and my 3 sons decided to travel to Hoxil. They made thorough preparations, cautious as ever. But on the 3rd day, they lost their guide. By the time they were found, only a pile of bones remained, mangled by wild beasts. One after another, the people around me disappeared. I numbed myself with endless work. But the company seemed cursed, like a castle built on sand. Within a year, it crumbled into nothing. The bankruptcy was the final straw that broke me. 1 year and 49 days after Madeline's death, the grief became unbearable. I stood atop the 66th floor of a high-rise building and stepped into the void. Tears blurred my weathered eyes. I regretted it all. How I wished I had never crossed paths with Brooklyn James. How I wished I had never hurt Madeline. But regret is the most useless thing in the world. There's no such thing as turning back time. And now in this life, I am condemned to spend the rest of my days in a hospital bed. Regret is my only companion. Even dying is a luxury I can't afford. While still in the prime of life, I'd been reduced to living with a catheter, clinging to a thread of existence, and enduring the endless beatings and curses of the people who are paid to keep me alive.